If I were to ask you, what are some of the biggest icons in games, you would probably think of a lot of different characters and things from a lot of different developers. But I'm sure that everyone would start by mentioning this guy.
Spaghetti.
Super Mario has been in every kind of game, in every kind of role. And that means if there's a certain thing that you can put in a game, odds are Mario's been in a game with it. Items, bosses, stories, motion controls, tight drifting, golf course layouts, he's done it all. It doesn't matter if it's capturing stuff in Mario Odyssey or remaking symphony orchestras in Mario Paint. All of these mechanics have at least one thing in common. They're, pretty good. So it's not that hot of a take when I say that Mario games have had some of the most beloved hubs in the medium. One after another, these games all floored us when they released, but we've had a long time to look at them, and today is the start of a 3-part mini-series on them, so buckle up and hold on to your hat. I'm Charles Goodrich, and this is Homeworlds, Mario 64 edition. Back in the day, 2D Mario games were the bread and butter of gaming. While the presentation of other games relied on arbitrary abstractions, Mario tried to ground its various elements in context, making them feel a part of his world. Take level transitions, for example. If you were lucky, you got to pick a boss's face on a level select and warp in. If you weren't, you'd just start the next level once you cleared a stage. Starting in Super Mario Bros. 3, the player can walk Mario or Green Mario around the map of the kingdom they're in, choose between some levels, encounter some enemies on the roads, and make their way to the world's castle in order to save the king. It gave the Mushroom Kingdom character. In Super Mario World, it was taken even further. The whole game took place on one connected island that you could traverse in its entirety, uncover secret shortcuts, and discover places like Star Road in the top secret area. In the early 90s, however, a new type of game was on the way. One that would put a Z-axis into console gaming, and Mario would be the one to lead gamers into this new frontier. Among the many questions buzzing at the time would have to be how to take these map screens and make a 3D equivalent of them. How do you make a hub in the third dimension? The answer, of course, being that you make Princess Peach's castle. For the two of you that don't know yet, Super Mario 64 takes place entirely within the castle of Princess Toadstool and is divided into 3 major areas. First is the main floor, followed by the basement, and then ending with the upper floors. Levels are accessed primarily by jumping into paintings in rooms that are typically locked until you get enough power stars or a big key. Unlike Dark Souls, see previous video, you can't go between these areas without returning to the hub first. Rather than being a convenient place that you think to come back to, you will be returning here after every single mission, succeed or fail. In many ways, the levels don't really feel like their own locations, but instead places within Peach's castle. As a result, you get levels that really work well with the limitations of the N64. A collection of dream worlds, they're largely a series of impossible geometry floating in the sky. Earlier I said that one of Mario's strengths was that his games typically avoided abstracting these kind of things, but here it justifies the abstraction by making it feel like you're using an in-universe warp. And so it's grounded within the logic of Peach's castle. Pretty cheeky. Sometimes the entrance to levels aren't paintings. Sometimes they're just stained glass windows. Sometimes they're the face of a clock. Sometimes they're just a bare wall. Sometimes they're holes in the floor or the walls, or a diorama inside a boo, or this stuff. They can be quite hidden at times, so it's a good thing that not all levels are mandatory. Each of the 15 worlds has 6 missions ending with a power star, plus a 100 coin star. There are also 15 hidden stars and one-off levels are given as something like Easter eggs around the castle, totaling to 120 stars. You only need 70 to complete the game.
Unless you're a cheater.
Now this means that many worlds are yours as a player to stumble upon and feel like a champion explorer finding. Of course, this complexity is not simply dropped into the lap of the player all at once. Which means it is time to talk about how progression through the castle is handled. Okay, so we don't actually start in the castle itself. There's something of a front yard leading up to the bridge over the castle's moat before we enter the castle that has a few tutorial signs around it. It's a pretty open space with no distractions or ways to hurt yourself. There isn't even music here. If it's 1996, or you're just new to video games, then the idea of moving a character throughout a 3D space on your TV might be just enough to implode your head, and maybe you want a couple of minutes to fling Mario around every which way with his bombastic backflips, ludicrous long jumps, and tricky triple jumps. Honestly, given that Super Mario 64 is one of the first 3D platformers, this bit of breathing room here might be the most impressive thing that the game does. We enter the lobby, and the layout draws our attention to 2 things in particular. First, the staircase directly facing the main entrance, which further leads to a door with a keyhole on it. Second, the door with a huge star on it directly facing the camera. Odds are that a new player is going to interact with a locked door first, letting them know that not everything will be accessible from the start of the game, encouraging the player to explore to find the way forward. Eventually we find the right path. A mostly featureless room that we can enter with a big painting of a bomb and a race section leading up to it. Alright, so let's go check it out and... Oops, we bumped into it. Hey, did it just... ripple? It's a nice little detail that clues us into the fact that this painting is not normal. Jumping in takes us to the first stage. Once we get our first star, 2 doors open up for us. One with another painting, giving us a choice of trying out this place or returning to the previous stage. The other just has some stained glass windows though. It's really weird. If this room is locked, then there has to be something worth checking out Oh my god, a secret! Okay, so not every level is entered through a painting. Glad I figured that out for myself, and I was even rewarded with a fun challenge and 2 stars. At 3 stars, now we have the whole lobby open to us, save for the big star door, which needs 8 stars to unlock. The toad in the lobby says that Princess Peach is in there, so we're actually almost at the final boss. We'll jump right into that painting of the Aw, damn it, not again! The lobby is kind of a microcosm of the whole hub. The castle opens up bit by bit, giving you stages to open more stages. Defeating Bowser here gives us access to the whole basement. From here, stages open up in bigger and bigger chunks. The basement gives you 3 worlds all at once, plus a 4th one once you pass the 12-star threshold. 30 stars gets you another level and the next Bowser fight, which gets you another 4 levels until you get 50 stars, which gets you another 2 levels until you hit 70. This makes sure that players get at least a taste of most levels before moving on, and allows the player to get more familiar with a chunk of the hub itself in order to find secrets. Spending more prolonged time with a handful of levels lets us become more intimately engaged with them and learn their layouts more thoroughly. Furthermore, there's a slight narrative to match this progression. You start on the ground floor, then delve into the depths of the castle. But once you conquer those, you ascend higher and higher. I remember when I was a kid, I was terrible at this game and I was stuck in the basement forever. I felt absolutely triumphant when I finally got to explore what was beyond that locked door I saw way back at the start of the game. The design of player progress in Peach's Castle as a hub provides a mechanical and narrative backbone of overcoming odds and being rewarded for it. And well, yes, this is a fairly basic principle of game design on the whole. It's absolutely applaudable that Nintendo did this so well in one of the first 3D games ever made. Functionally speaking, the castle may as well be the same thing as a room that has a bunch of portals in it. Some are locked away until you beat enough other levels, but you could absolutely remake Super Mario 64 and replace the castle with what I just described and the main gameplay would remain intact. Needless to say, what we ended up with is significantly more appealing than that. It's pretty, the music is lovely, the justification for areas being blocked off is given understandable context, and it all feels very in character for Mario. I already mentioned that making paintings the entrances to the stages was a good choice. Beyond simply being a justification for the abstracted look of the levels, it keeps the castle from feeling contrived. Most every level entrance is something that you can easily imagine that was just a normal part of the castle until Bowser's magic got to it. Except for the stuff that's not. Seriously, what is this stuff? Or this stuff? Why is there just a hole in the ground here? On the flip side of things, though, is an even larger flaw. Where's Peach's bedroom? Is there no bathroom in this castle? Or kitchen? How come so many rooms are dedicated to a single painting? What is this... dungeon? What is this place? How come there's a painting on here? No, seriously, what is this stuff? This hub is great for 1996, but I really don't think this is stuff that we'd overlook nowadays, and I think it would be disingenuous to tell people making games today that these are things to emulate. In many ways, Peach's Castle is a masterpiece, but in many others, we've learned so much about better hub design since then. I'd really hate to end this on a down note. So instead, I'm going to briefly mention some random stuff that I really like about this hub. Oh, remember when you could look up into the sun and it brought you to a level where you could get a hat that makes you fly? This is so cool. Or what about when you ground pounded the pillars that lowered the water in that room, and then you went out the door and it turned out that you drained the moat and there was another secret level there too? Like, wow. Oh, or how about the entrance to Snowman's Land? It's like a room with this big mirror in it, and none of the paintings are portals, but you see the snowman picture in the mirror, and on the wall it's barren, so you think, I wonder what this is supposed to be, and you jump into it, it's the level's entrance, so it's amazing! You know how, like, the star doors, right, they're all locked until you get enough stars? Remember how, like, the last one would let you go through, and the staircase just kept going on and on forever and ever if you didn't have enough stars instead? And then the music just kept going up in what I now know is called a shepherd tone, and it made it sound like it was going up forever too. God! Super Mario 64 was rad as heck. It's a game where if you 100%ed it, your reward was a cannon in the outside area that shoots you to the roof of the castle where Yoshi tells you that you're the man and gives you a bajillion one-ups. It's a game that prioritized playfulness at every turn. There's a ton of iconic locations in this game. but I think that everyone would agree that the most beloved one is the place between them all. If you saw my video on Dark Souls, you know that I'm trying to build a vocabulary on hub design. Peach's Castle is the center point between all these areas. The only way to go from Wet Dry World to Hazy Maze Cave is through the hub. All the content of the game is tucked away in this space. In Dark Souls, you explore all of Lordran. In Mario 64, you explore this one building. You may go to all these places, but you never really left the castle. I'd like to name this spoke design. Every part of it may be uniquely different, but it's all part of the same individual structure. To give it a dictionary definition, a spoke design is a type of space that branches off into many different locations that are themselves disconnected from one another. Good spoke design makes sure that the hub itself is extremely involved in the experience of the game, due to how frequently the player will have to return to it. I'd say the best ones even hide many of the routes to areas, making them discoverable secrets. Super Mario 64 also features warping to locations, meaning that this is a kind of remote design in addition to being a spoke design. This means that Dark Souls 3 is going to need a more nuanced name that I plan to come up with in the near future. Keep an eye out for that. There's a great benefit to having a lengthy experience take place in a single location. The time that you spend there becomes more intimate and personal. It's powerful to have a space feel lived in, but so much more when it's lived in by you. This castle transformed from being a level hub to being the same thing that Princess Peach herself sees it as. A home. Thanks everyone for watching. Your viewership means everything to me. If you've enjoyed this video, please give me a like and leave a comment, it really helps me out. Especially as a newcomer to all this. Subscribe and hit the bell icon to know exactly when more great content is available. My next video is going to continue looking at 3D Mario with Mario Sunshine on GameCube. I'm really looking forward to that one, and hopefully so are you. Cheers!